It's a orange juice.
What is the miner? What is his function? He can act as a secondary win condition if your primary win condition can't get through or you need that little extra chip. He deals extra damage to towers, so he synergizes very well with poison to form the primary win condition. This is one of the slowest archetypes that is hard to play, but is very reliable when you master it. He can be the support and act just as an excellent chipper in the sense that he can pop up anywhere on the map, dealing massive amounts of chip damage if there's something else tanking for him. Or you can play him as a distraction for your other cards, distracting their counters to your push, allowing your units to survive a little bit longer. It can act as an instant mini tank with the ability to pop up anywhere on the map. This pairs really well with the Lava Hound, Minion Horde, and many other high DPS fragile units. He's kind of like a spell, where you can cast him anywhere on the map. He can activate the King Tower, so be mindful of where you place him, especially if they have Tornado. He's an inexpensive 3 Elixir legendary card, which makes him very effective at taking out the Elixir Collector. If you can get at least 1 hit on the Collector, that was a successful deploy. He's also an excellent counter at the Princess because you can send him anywhere at any time at any angle. This is critical if you need to save your log against a log bait deck. They're both 3 Elixir, and the Princess is a card that is definitely something that's worth more than 3 Elixir when it exists on the map, so it's normally a good idea to take her out and chip at the tower if possible. Vice versa, if you're playing a Princess and your opponent has a Miner, always protect her by throwing down some bodyguards. Guards. If you've heard of Tricky Barrel, you definitely need to try the Tricky Miner. When you're running a Miner poison, go for the tower instead and they'll think it's for the pump. But no, the poison is for the pump. The goblins die under the poison and the Miner deals the full damage to your tower. Tricky Miner happens in any situation. You can do this with the Princess as well, but it really depends on what they use to defend their Princess with. See what they counter their Princess with during the first rotation, because if they defend it with the Knight and you poisoned, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. But if it's Goblin Gang, then that is Value Town. The Miner can be used to divert attention away from their splashers, like a Princess or Executioner, predict their counter and come in with the Miner at a different angle. One of the safest tiles to plant a Miner is to go in at the bottom corner of their Princess Tower. It's nearly impossible to tornado the Miner to activate the King Tower from that position. Another good anti-tornado placement is to place it 1 tile lower. This is really hard to tornado into the King properly. The Miner synergizes very well with the Ghost. Here's the reason: when the Miner is coming towards the tower and they start to plant a counter, put the Miner behind the tower. Now, most of the time, the counter is actually going to start walking backwards, and the Ghost will connect to the tower because you pulled it with the Miner. Same with the Lava Hound. There's usually going to be a Musketeer or even an Executioner. Wait till they lock onto your Lava Hound, then use the Miner to take out the ranged unit, and then he'll even tank for the pups. What a great deal. A very nice unit to pair a Miner with is an Ice Spirit. If you use the Ice Spirit to tank for the Miner, and a lot of players let the Ice Spirit hit, that Ice Spirit tanks the Princess Tower and freezes her. Your Miner ends up dealing a lot of damage for 1 Elixir. Skeleton Barrel is now an underutilized card because it has a higher skill cap. It pairs very well with the Miner. There's a split second where that balloon pops and skeletons don't spawn quite yet. That is the moment where you send in your Miner to tank the skeletons. Zap is also another mandatory card to pair with the Skeleton Barrel with. The barrel's death damage brings down the health of the minions, you zap it, and everybody's happy with the Miner tanking, except your opponent. You never want to leave a Miner left ignored on your tower. That's basically a whole rocket worth of damage for 3 Elixir. With Skeletons as your counter to the Miner, it'll minimize the damage the Miner can do to your tower. If your opponents are playing a Miner poison deck, try not to counter him using any swarm units because they will get value from that poison. In this case, try to use a tank to counter him as best as possible. It shuts down the Miner poison synergy. If you're playing against a very good Miner player and you have an Ice Spear, you can almost guarantee yourself only 1 hit at most. Just plant the Ice Spirit behind your Princess Tower or where you think he'll be planted Once he's frozen, then you plant your counter unit on top of him. This stops all of the guessing games and minimizes the damage that it deals to your tower. You could also do this with an Ice Wizard. Since the wizard has a spawn zap, it'll force the miner to retarget onto him. Though that exchange, it's 4 for 3, so maybe if you don't quite have the proper counters. Generally, not a good sign when you use a miner to defend, but when necessary and you have no other choice, he actually isn't bad at all. He has the same health as an Ice Golem. He has the same damage and attack speed as a Knight when attacking units. So, use him when you see fit. The miner is the most versatile troop card in the game because you can use him as a tank for support units. Spear Gobbies are pretty cheap and must be addressed when a miner is tanking. That miner is extra juicy when you use a different tank to distract the tower. If the miner is ignored, that's going to be way too much damage on their tower. Even when tanking for a single unit that's crossing the bridge, that is a lot of damage. So when you're defending, make sure to take out that support unit first, because that is going to deal way more damage than your miner ever will. There's one tile in the middle between the two princess towers where both towers will lock onto the miner. It should rarely be placed here. Unless your miner only requires 1 or 2 hits on the tower to kill it, you would hardly place defensive units here unless your tower is almost dead or if your opponent has really smart miner placements. The most common area where the miner is going to be placed in higher trophy ranges is going to be the outside corner furthest away from the king tower. Now, the reason why this is because a lot of players have Tornado and they're going to activate the king tower with your miner, which is going to be huge when they can activate the king early. That's going to minimize a lot of damage your miner is going to be able to do to the tower. A lot of players will test your deck with these tiles. They're going to feel what cards you have during the first rotations of the game, during the first minute of the match. So if you do see a miner coming at you for the first time, you can place a defensive unit to counter them around here. Always be aware of your opponent's miner placements. A lot of players put the miner in the same spot all the time, and that is a terrible habit. If you're using the miner, always try to switch up your miner placements and keep your opponent guessing for the extra juicy guaranteed damage. If you know they have a rocket or a miner, it's going to be a really good habit to put the miner in front of the king tower. That way both princess towers can take out the miner. So if you plant the miner behind the princess tower, only one princess tower is going to be able to reach the miner. Undefended, it's going to take out your pump. And on top of that, it's going to deal damage to your tower. That is ridiculous. Your opponent will try to miner your pump in the middle. This is a great opportunity to tornado the miner to activate your king. If your opponent is really tricky in the miner placements, it's best to try and place units behind your princess tower right when you see the miner. This way, it'll stop him from connecting right away and give you time to plant something else on top of him. Another great counter and very annoying for miner players is when there's any hut or any tombstones planted behind your princess tower. Your units come out in constant waves and helps defend him off. Sometimes they can even absorb a few hits as well. Be careful with poison and be careful to save your building to defend against the hog instead. That's going to be a lot more damage than miner can offer. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more quality OJ.